Long nurse.
In the current wave of cartoons, can you imagine getting a character named Stripperella? Or one with a secret magic compartment in her bosom? Or even one that prefers fighting only wearing racy outfits? What we just said is way too explicit for modern television, but the 80s and 90s had a more liberal approach towards cartoons. Those two decades brought in some over-the-top sultry female characters in animation, and in today's video, we're going to introduce you to a bunch of them. From leather-clad femme fatales and tomboy mutants, to feline superheroines and fierce martial artists. Our list has them all, so let's set aside the judgment and appreciate these hard-to-resist women, who not only kicked ass, but also slid into one's wildest fantasies. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
You wouldn't be wandering now from
Jessica from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, 1988. She's the toon wife of the anthropomorphic Roger Rabbit, and first appeared in the 1981 novel Who Censored Roger Rabbit, and then in its 1988 movie adaptation, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. In the novel, Jessica is portrayed as a dishonest, scheming rising star, who pays little heed to her estranged husband. In the film, however, Jessica Rabbit is madly in love with Roger Rabbit, and even becomes a part-time investigator when her husband is framed for murder. Mind you, this sultry Los Angeles singer is also a suspect in the investigation, which brings forth one of the most famous dialogues in cartoon history. "I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way." Jessica Rabbit remains one of the best-known cartoon sex symbols, with her hourglass figure, voluptuous features, and her racy choice of attire. She wore an off-the-shoulder bustier dress that revealed much of her cleavage. Well, her cleavage also served as a secret hammer space portal, which had bear traps laid out for unwelcome guests. For those not familiar with the concept, in cartoons, hammer space is a fictional extra-dimensional storage space, which explains how cartoon characters can fish out objects from thin air. In addition to her detective skills, Jessica Rabbit had a bunch of sexy abilities such as flirting, batting her eyelashes, and her bouncy walking style. However, Jessica Rabbit was more than just a redhead seductress, being able to wield a gun, a mallet, and a frying pan to save her pretty ass. Princess Tigra from Fire and Ice, 1983. Princess Tigra brought tons of the oomph factor in the dark fantasy animation movie Fire and Ice. She was the princess of Fire Keep, who had a pet black panther named Shaitan. Tigra was depicted as a headstrong and alluring princess who was often in need of rescue. Throughout the storyline, Tigra is taken hostage by captors multiple times, and she manages to escape every single time. Well, almost every time. She was to be married off to the arrogant prince of Ice Peak, but was rejected and abandoned in a corpse pit. Prince Tigra's knight in shining armor arrived in the form of a brave warrior named Larn, and many adventures later, the movie ended with the two of them kissing passionately. Tigra herself was portrayed as an extremely sensuous character, with full-figured curvy features and impeccable beauty. Tigra would typically be wearing a two-piece and a see-through overall on top, teasing her bodily features from underneath her sheer dress. Jet black hair and well-defined facial features further added to Tigra's allure and charisma. Tigra's minimal outfit and exaggerated feminine features were typical of the portrayal of female characters in the fantasy genre. Aware of her own charm and beauty, Princess Tigra sometimes used her sensuality to escape tricky situations. On one occasion, she was thrown into a waterhole by a bunch of orcs, and when she emerged from the depths, her barely clothed appearance distracted the orcs long enough for her to finally escape. Smart move, we'd say. Aeon Flux from Aeon Flux animated series, 1991 to 1995. Created in the image of a dominatrix, Aeon Flux is the protagonist of the 90s animated series, which is set in a dystopian future where the two nations of Bregna and Monica are locked in an ideological war. As the self-directed agent from Monica, it's Aeon Flux's mission to infiltrate Bregna and obliterate its strongholds. By design, Aeon Flux is a ruthless assassin, fearless fighter, and skilled acrobat. She's tall and lean and scantily dressed in cut-out leather pieces, giving a dark, sexual appeal to the character. In the series, Aeon Flux is always seen in her provocative attire, representing themes of fetishism and dominance. And with her brutal action scenes highlighting her chiseled physique, Aeon Flux gives sensuality a dangerous twist. It's said that the creator, Peter Chung, had grown frustrated by the limitations of all his former on-screen cartoon characters, and Aeon Flux was the result of his unrestricted avant-garde ideas. In addition to her physical attributes, another attractive trait of Aeon Flux was that she placed her mission at the top of all priorities. She's forever in love with Trevor Goodchild, the leader of Bregna, but her mission prevents her from a romantic union. This unfulfilled love story is what makes this sexily dressed spy character all the more alluring. Stripperella from Stripperella Animated Series 2003 to 2004. While the rest of the candidates on our list are from the 80s and 90s, we had to bring in one from the early 2000s, and she's none other than Stripperella, voiced by Pamela Anderson in Stan Lee's adult animated series, named after the female protagonist. Starting from her name to her occupation, everything about this character is saucy and suggestive. She's a stripper named Erotica Jones, who takes great pride in her bodily assets, and also works as a secret super agent named Stripperella. Her superheroine outfit includes a full-sleeve crop top and a strategically cut-out neckline, revealing much of her cleavage, which actually serves as a hidden Victoria's Secret storage unit, from where she can pull out multiple objects at will. Her cleavage also doubled up as a lie detecting device, as when someone touches her bosom, she can determine whether they're speaking the truth or not. Stripperella's superpowers are basically rooted in her sensuality, to the point that her martial arts skills are graded as sexy, and her maneuvers are described as killer. The most explicit of her powers are the breast expansion ability and extreme hotness. That is, she's so hot that any man coming near her can be set ablaze. In addition to Stripperella's absurdly sexual superpowers, she was also a brilliant fighter with extreme intelligence, superhuman strength, and a mane of blonde hair that worked as a parachute. Stripperella was also immune to extreme temperatures, which enabled her to don a bikini in sub-zero temperatures. Plus, she unabashedly loved her revealing outfits. The show often had to blur out some of the nudity and explicit scenes featuring the protagonist, with Stan Lee remaining firm on his view that this adult cartoon was outright funny and not dirty.
Oh, I could get a real kick out of that.
Baroness from G.I. Joe, a real American hero, 1983 to 1986. Meet Anastasia Sisarovna, the spoiled daughter of two wealthy business personalities who grew up to become a terrorist mastermind in the G.I. Joe universe. Being a rebel student wasn't enough for Anastasia. She later joined extremist groups, and then eventually the terrorist organization named Cobra. The Baroness from G.I. Joe animated series of the 80s was the villain of the storyline, and the operations head of Cobra, G.I. Joe's nemesis. As the lead intelligence officer, Baroness was an expert in bioweapons, psychological warfare, and cryptography, making her a ruthless and intriguing character. The Baroness is also regarded as compellingly attractive, dressed in a tight bodysuit that enhances her features, wields guns, and sports strikingly black hair. And to top it all off, the Baroness wore glasses, which gave her a nerdishly attractive appearance. Voiced by Morgan Lofting, this baddie had a seductive style of speaking, and her authoritative presence also added to her sensual appeal. Anastasia Sisarovna was among those handful of characters who were introduced in G.I. Joe comics and cartoons first, and later into the toy line. The Baroness was fiercely loyal to the Cobra commander, and felt strongly for the weapons developer Destro, and in typical femme fatale manner, she used their secrets to pit them against one another. The Baroness' bad girl persona is what makes her an enigmatic, yet sultry G.I. Joe character, which explains her massive fan following.
Speaking of interesting...
Chun-Li from Street Fighter II, the animated movie, 1994. Chun-Li is an iconic martial artist from the Street Fighter games, and she brought her fierce and attractive persona to the movie adaptation of the games in the 90s, albeit with a sensual twist. Not to mention she was the first female protagonist of the gaming franchise, which undeniably adds to her allure and attractiveness in the movie. Chun-Li's sex appeal came from a combination of her athletic, well-defined physique, her dominating personality, and her aggressive fighting style. This fighter, whose aerial kick attacks were unmatchable in the games, sported an iconic outfit in the movie. Chun-Li would typically be dressed in a tight-fitted cheapao and scarlet tights that highlighted her legs, as she is known for her powerful kick attacks. Her distinctive ox hairstyle softened her otherwise fierce appearance and gave her an enticing look. The most controversial scene in Street Fighter II the movie featured Chun-Li in a vulnerable shower moment, ahead of her big fight with the villain Vega. But the scene was deemed too explicit for an animated movie, and hence was censored in various edits of the film. What followed the questionable shower scene was a deadly fight sequence between Chun-Li and Vega, in which she defeated the villain and slipped into a coma from exhaustion. And this whole shower scene, followed by the fight sequence, reaffirmed Chun-Li's portrayal as a tough fighter with a sensual appeal. No wonder she has such a huge fan base.
Hey.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow!
Shut up.
Charanga Leela from Futurama, 1999 to 2003. Charanga Leela was a weirdly hot character from the 90s animated show Futurama, perhaps because she had a single eye, which occupied most of her forehead, and a purple ponytail. Strangely enough, folks on the internet find her to be really sultry, leading to a gamut of erotic memes and fan art surrounding her. Unsurprisingly, the protagonist of the animated series named Fry attempts to hook up with Leela throughout the show, and they end up getting married. Leela, typically dressed in a white tank top, leather tights, and high boots, had a tomboyish sexy appeal to her. To top it all off, Leela's no-nonsense leadership skills and authoritative nature added to her attractive quotient. Turanga Leela served as the highly professional captain of the Planet Express ship that was responsible for interplanetary deliveries in the sci-fi universe of the show. Abandoned as a baby, Leela grew up thinking she's an alien from another planet, particularly because of her purple hair, one eye, and elbow talons, to name a few. But she eventually learned that she belongs to a lineage of sewer mutants from underneath New York. Despite her physical oddities, Turanga Leela was a badass captain, who was designed just the right amount of curvy for her fans. Minerva Mink from Animaniacs, 1993 to 1994. This anthropomorphic mink from the 90s show Animaniacs has to be one of the most sensual characters seen in animation ever. She was originally named Marilyn after the movie bombshell Marilyn Monroe. Her initial design was so tantalizing that she had to be toned down ahead of her first TV appearance to make it more family entertainment appropriate. Minerva Mink still appeared as a strikingly provocative character who would go into spasms witnessing a particularly attractive male, and she would elicit the same reaction from those of the opposite sex. The concept behind Minerva Mink's attractive character was that she would drive every male, irrespective of their species, wild with her appearance. She was designed with luscious blonde hair and a long tail, and was typically dressed in a body-hugging red outfit. Naturally, the segments that Minerva featured in were deemed too sexual for a young audience. For example, on one occasion, her nude silhouette was shown during a lake bathing scene, and on another, the reaction of the male characters upon witnessing her were filled with sexual innuendos. Minerva Mink's cleavage shots also had to be airbrushed out in some cases. While attractive and sexy on the outside, Minerva was greedy and vain on the inside, one who was only interested in appearances, and not a person's true nature. She kept rejecting Wilford in his nerdy appearance, but swooned over his werewolf persona, which only lasted a short while. Owing to her hotness quotient, this character could manipulate men into doing things for her. Thus, Minerva was a conniving babe, who was too hot to be managed by both the makers and the viewers. Lola Bunny from Space Jam, 1996. Basketball and cartoons overlap in the iconic 90s comedy movie Space Jam, which had a pretty alluring bunny in the form of the athletic Lola Bunny. She was the girlfriend of Bugs Bunny, who was head over heels for this smart girl. In sync with her attractive personality, Lola has a curvy figure and loves to dress up in purple shorts and a crop top, with her ears tied like a ponytail and a tuft of blonde hair jutting out like bangs. In the movie, Lola's appearances are marked by Bugs swooning over her, and the same goes for the other male characters. Lola played hard to get, and hence Bugs was always trying to win her over with desperate acts. Lola indeed softened towards her smitten boyfriend when he saved her from getting injured during a basketball game. Interestingly, Lola was initially designed as a tomboy, but the makers feared that would make her look too masculine. So Lola Bunny turned out to be both athletic and sexy, someone who means business but also has a flirtatious side to her. And this explains her famous catchphrase, "Don't ever call me doll." Hollywood from Cool World, 1992. She's the animated, seductive antagonist of the 90s live-action movie Cool World, who finds herself pitted against Brad Pitt's detective persona in the storyline. Cool World is the animated world inhabited by doodles, who refer to humans in the real world as noids. All Hollywood, the character ever wanted was to have sex with a noid to become a real person and enter the real world to wreak havoc on both realms. In the animated realm, Hollywood sports sultry outfits and frequents nightclubs with her cartoon goons. Holly has short blonde hair and a rather attractive physique, which enhances her persona as a seductress. Her many failed attempts to lustfully attract human characters into the animated world are thwarted by Brad Pitt, who's immune to her villainous charm. Holly eventually manages to seduce a human by performing an alluring strip dance and gets in bed with him, thus transforming into a real person. Holly retains her ambitious and lustful persona even in her human form, wearing sultry cut-out dresses and having an arrogant attitude. In the human world, she gets bored with her partner soon and ditches him for more villainous pursuits. To permanently secure a place in the human realm, this femme fatale even resorts to murdering Brad Pitt. Rumor has it that Hollywood's cartoon character was supposed to have some nude scenes in the movie, but owing to controversies, the creators had to clothe her in all scenes.
She-Ra. In my heart, I know I'm the strongest.
She-Ra from Thundercats. The 80s cartoon series introduced a race of cat-like humanoids with the Thundercats, a team of fierce warriors with feline powers. At the beginning, She-Ra was the only adult female Thundercat, stealing all the limelight with her snatched physique and feline mannerisms. Quite obviously, She-Ra gets her name from the cheetah, and it reflects in her appearance as well. She wears a fitted bodysuit that accentuates her features quite prominently, occasionally revealing some of her cleavage. She-Ra was designed with cat-like eyes, with her hair mirroring the skin of a cheetah, all of which added to her sensuality. She was muscular yet sleek and slender, and these features contributed to her exotic factor. As a female warrior, She-Ra always stood out in a combat scene with her acrobatic skills, and with her maneuvers designed after the cheetah, she fought with animalistic elegance, making her more visually appealing. In addition to her attractive features, She-Ra was a proud warrior, the strongest of her kind, and was extremely fast and agile, clocking a jogging speed of 120 miles per hour, and we can only imagine what her full potential running speed would have been. With her form-fitted outfit and excellent combat skills, She-Ra brought oodles of sexiness to the Thundercats cartoon.
You know what's wrong with our relationship? You always let me get too close.
Catwoman from Batman the Animated Series, 1992 to 1995. Meet Selina Kyle, a Gotham City socialite by day and a feline burglar by night. Famously known as Catwoman, she's Batman's love interest in the 90s animated series based on the DC comic superhero. This version of Selina Kyle was particularly captivating with her animated design. An hourglass figure, blonde hair, signature red lips, and the personality of a seductress. For her burglary exploits, Catwoman donned a gray bodysuit with black gloves and boots, adding a cowl with cat ears and a cutout face mask, all of which enhanced her seducing feline attributes, not to mention the whip she carried, and her retractable claws. Part of Catwoman's charm was that she stole from the rich and donated to the poor, enjoying the thrill of hunting and stealing every single bit. In addition to being irresistible to Batman and other male characters, Catwoman had a way with cats. They would be drawn towards her inevitably. Catwoman's flirtatious maneuvers always helped her get out of treacherous situations. After all, it's easy to get distracted by a leather-clad superheroine doing gymnastics and wielding a whip. Betty Boop from The Romance of Betty Boop, 1985. The 80s animated series reintroduced Betty Boop as the timeless sex symbol, a character that originated in the roaring 20s and early 30s, as an emblem of female independence and sexual liberation. Betty Boop was created as a caricature of the rebellious fashion of the post-war flapper culture, when women wore short skirts, styled their hair in short bobs, and deliberately flouted sexual norms and behavioral codes. In the 1985 cartoon, Betty Boop was brought back in animation with her iconic short red dress, curled bob hair, a garter on her thighs, and a flirtatious attitude. As a caricature, she had a babyish face and a petite body, but with noticeably curvy features, which added to her sex appeal. Even her storyline enabled her to be flirtatious and independent, as in, her interactions were often laced with seductive innuendos and a touch of romantic tension. In the series, she was a brilliant shoe salesperson by day and a charming club performer by night. But Betty Boop had bigger dreams and aspired to marry a millionaire in New York. Well, that turned out to be a futile plan. She temporarily acknowledged her romance with the club's Iceman, but eventually moved to Hollywood to be a bigger star. Betty Boop was the perfect blend of innocence and sensuality, empowerment and sexuality, making her an enduring sex icon of pop culture.
No, this isn't what I want after all.
Black Cat from Spider-Man the Animated Series, 1994 to 1998. This feline criminal from Spider-Man the Animated Series underwent a massive transformation as she was given the Super Soldier Serum, which further enhanced her attractive features to the point of perfection. The serum was personalized in such a way that this baddie was able to transform into a muscular shape in her Black Cat persona, and petite shape while hiding in plain sight. Black Cat was infamous for her heists around the world, but this reputed criminal eventually became an ally of Spider-Man. In fact, before she became Black Cat, she was infatuated by Spider-Man, but the feelings turned out to be one-sided. In her original Felicia Hardy persona, she's even rolled up Spider-Man's mask to the nose and kissed the web-slinging superhero. Despite Spider-Man rejecting her for her own safety, the sexual tension between them was absolutely apparent. She continued to share a flirtatious rapport with Spider-Man, engaging in playful banter and seductive moves, which only enhanced the appeal of this enigmatic criminal. Black Cat was also assigned a sultry design with emphasis on her body-hugging costume, cut-out face mask, and silver hair. Now, this feline baddie had a number of powers up her gloves, such as excellent agility, acrobatic and burglary skills, and in addition, she often used her wit, charm, and seductive nature to manipulate her way through difficult situations. Black Cat was indeed a perfect combination of the sexy and the intriguing.
Yes, Dr. Scratch and Sniff?
Get these kids out of here!
Hello Nurse from Animaniacs, 1993 to 1994. To round off our list, we have another Animaniacs character, Hello Nurse. Undeniably one of the most significant members of the 90s show. Only the sight of this curvy nurse was enough to make the male patients feel better. The Animaniacs franchise was extended with a full-length toon film named Wacko's Wish, and Hello Nurse was a significant part of it as well. In the show, she was particularly the object of teenage affection of the Toon brothers Yakko and Wacko. Every time they would spot Hello Nurse, Yakko and Wacko would run into her arms and plant big kisses. But first they would yell out the greeting phrase that gave Hello Nurse her name. It was much later that the creators revealed her original name to be Heloise Nurse, as she's from German origins. It's no secret that Hello Nurse catered to the lewd fantasies of the other Toon characters on the show, with her body-hugging outfit, blonde hair, and flirtatious mannerisms. So much so that Hello Nurse became a symbol of attractive women for Yakko and Wacko, who greeted any and every pretty woman with their signature phrase, Hello Nurse! However, there's more to Hello Nurse than just her looks. She possessed an extremely high IQ of 192, but sadly it was only liked for her looks. Hello Nurse was the perfect example of beauty with brains, but one that was celebrated more for her sexuality than her intelligence.
I want to know just who's behind your mask.
The 80s and 90s were truly a different era for cartoons, where the target audience wasn't just restricted to kids. This allowed the makers to exercise creative liberties and design female characters with that extra touch of oomph. What do you think of these absolute boss babes? We can guess that you have more names to add to the list, so please tell us your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you liked our video, please give us a shout out and stay tuned for more marvelous content. See you super soon!